So My Hero Academia Season 6 is upon us, and not only is it good to be back and in flying form, but it has had one of, if not the best openings out of all of the seasons so far, and has been an absolute non-stop roller coaster ride that has shown no signs of stopping anytime soon. It's a far cry from the content we got this time last season. Must be that winter vibe, because it seems like Christmas has come early. Now in this video, unlike previous episode breakdowns, thanks to your vote, yes, you viewer who definitely did vote in this poll, I will be breaking down episode 1, 2, and 3 of season 6, which will be beautifully segmented into timestamps below, so there'll be no confusion about what episode I'm talking about. Also, if you're wondering why I sound slightly different, it's because I have a severe case of the cold right now, and if you're wondering why I just don't record it when I don't have a cold, we all about that content, baby! And before I delve into this amazing episodic journey, I am obliged to remind you, it's the YouTube law, not to forget to Detroit smash that like button and slide on into that subscribe button's DMs to hit that notification bell. And now, without further ado, let's not waste any more time and dive right into My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 1, titled A Quiet Beginning. This episode opens up exactly where last season left off. That's right, finally there is no anime-only 1A reintroduction episode, following the events of chapters 258, 259, and 260 of the My Hero manga. After a brief recap of the end of the last season, which can be summarized as the League of Villains are now running the Meta Liberation Army, calling themselves the Paranormal Liberation Front, Shigaraki is getting a new power from Kyodai Garaki, and the heroes, looking sexy and dramatic as ever, are fully ready to go into war with the villains. We jump right back to the Gunga Mountain Villa, where we see Hawks acing his undercover work, helping out his new bestie Twice to encourage the Paranormal Liberation troops. Here, Hawks internally informs us that while the Paranormal Liberation Front claims their plan is to fix Hero Society and destroy the status quo, what this really means is they plan to destroy Hero Society and all heroes and promote a world similar to that of when Quirks first came about. A lawless, chaotic world run by the powerful, which will allow Shigaraki to rule with an iron fist, essentially becoming the second All for One. Basically, bad guys kill heroes and become new rulers of the world. It's pretty simple. And unless the heroes do something soon, the villains will succeed in this plan. It's also here where we learn that Hawks was only able to get all of this information thanks to becoming besties with Twice, who he notes, while being the most gullible and trustworthy member of the League, is now the most dangerous, after overcoming his trauma and being able to make as many copies as he wants. Now, the anime doesn't actually show this, but the manga made it clear that not only can he make an unlimited number of duplicates of himself, but he can make an unlimited number of anyone, including Nomus. You thought one Shigeru High-End was bad? Imagine a million of them. And this scene ends with a genuine moment between Hawks and Twice, where Twice tells the number 2 hero, anyone who helps his friends can't be all bad. Let's fly free together, which causes Hawks to pull a genuine smile. And following this, the episode cuts to the heroes preparing for the mass surprise attack on the villains. That's right, in order to counteract the villains' plans, the heroes have decided the best course of action is to attack the villains first and fast, completely defeating them before they even have a chance to start their plan. During this preparation, Detective Tsukauchi explains that in the coming battle, the heroes are going to break into 2 teams. Team Endeavor will be going to Jakku Hospital to take down Dr. Kyodai Garaki, the doctor who is All for One's protege and has been helping Shigaraki, and to capture Shigaraki, who they learned was in this location thanks to Twice, who accidentally let it slip to Hawks. Team Edgeshot will be heading to the Gunga Mountain Villa, the main headquarters of the Paranormal Liberation Front, where they will get the jump on the main members of the PLF, aka Dabi, Toga, Spinner, Twice, Redestro, and Skeptic, and take them down before they can properly act. It's a 2-team plan, and both teams are attacking simultaneously. It's also imperative to mention that both teams will be accompanied by Hero Corps students, because of course they will, whose sole purpose is to act as support, evacuating civilians and capturing any rogue villains. Let's see how long that lasts. And with the preparations out of the way, all of the heroes leave the meeting in classic badass anime fashion as they emphasize the goal of this mission to wipe out the Paranormal Liberation Front in its entirety and save the world. So the mission commences and the heroes run off into battle and begin their joint attack. The first point of view we follow is that of Team Endeavor, who simply walk right through the front door of the hospital, begin an evacuation, and confront Dr. Kyodai Garaki as he walks through the hospital hallways. There was no espionage in this mission. The only member of this team who doesn't confront Garaki is Mirko, who has been sent to look for the secret facility in the hospital morgue. Garaki, in seeing the number one hero marching with essentially an army right for him, tries to run away, but he's caught by Aizawa, who uses his erasure, causing the doctor to age rapidly, revealing that Garaki has a quirk called Life Force, which allows the user to live twice as long than they naturally would, explaining how he hasn't really aged since his early days of helping All for One. It's also revealed here through the hero's breakdown of the Nomus that Dr. Garaki can in fact duplicate quirks, which is how all of his powerful Nomu have super regeneration abilities, a quirk that is seen as extremely rare in the My Hero world. Present Mike and Aizawa then have a strongly spoken word with Garaki as they think about Shirakumo/Kurogiri, which ends with Present Mike aggressively shouting in his face about why he doesn't use his amazing talents to just help people, and Aizawa lets him know that on behalf of everyone he has Nomu'd, this is our payback. Back in the morgue, Mirko has found the secret Nomu facility, and upon entering said facility, low-level Nomu spring from all around and not only attack Mirko, but spring through the ceiling directly into the hospital. One of these Nomus then pierces straight through Dr. Garaki, revealing that he was nothing more than a copy, created from twice his quirk. With the hospital full of Nomus, the heroes get to work, and the battle at Jakku Hospital officially begins. The episode then cuts to the real Dr. Garaki in his lab underneath the hospital, where we not only see a bunch of Nomus in the middle of being Nomufied, a fuck ton of vials containing copied quirks, but also Shigaraki, who is currently unconscious inside a giant vat. Garaki, pissed that the heroes are going to destroy his life's work, grabs the most precious quirks he has copied and runs to a little Nomu he has aptly named Johnny. This was definitely a poor child, that sick son of a bitch, who he commands to warp both him and Shigaraki out of the facility. Now, in case you are wondering, Johnny does not in fact possess Kurogiri's warp quirk, but instead he possesses a copy of the quirk All for One used back in Kamino Ward. We have actually seen the Doctor use Johnny to warp people last season, when he warped Dabi away from Mirko after the high-end attack, and when he warped the League to him after they encountered Gigantomachia. Unfortunately for the Doc, life never turns out how you expect, as Mirko, after absolutely mincing all the low-level Nomus in her way, smashes through the wall, killing Johnny with debris, shattering countless vials of quirks, and locates the Doctor. And she stares down the old Doctor before hitting him with a classic Bugs Bunny reference, "What's up, Doc?" And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of episode 1, which is one hell of a way to start off this season. In case you were wondering, the arc we are currently in is called the Paranormal Liberation War arc, war being the key word, so you best believe there is a buttload of fights to come. So it's great to see there's no time being spent on any filler. It's all just straight up kick-ass canon content. In terms of differences to manga, this episode is pretty much one-to-one actually, with there being only very minuscule differences. So all in all, I gotta say, this is one hell of an episode. But now it's time to continue the story, which brings us right into My Hero Academia Season 6, Episode 2, titled Mirko the Number 5 Hero. This episode covers 3 chapters of the My Hero manga following the events of chapters 261, 262, and 263, and it picks up exactly where the last episode left off, with Dr. Kyodai Garaki screaming in despair as he watches Mirko smash through his life's work, Nomus, stockpiled quirks, and little Nomus. Upon confronting the real Doctor, Mirko informs the other heroes that she has found him. Unfortunately, the majority of heroes are too preoccupied fighting Nomus to help. Only 3 Garaki can make their way to her. One of them being the number 6 hero, Crust, whose quirk is he can produce shields from any part of his body, and another being Xless, essentially Budget Cyclops from the X-Men. It's also fun to note here that there are 2 anime-only scenes in this section, one of which we get to see is Endeavor and Aizawa working together to defeat Nomus, in which Endeavor tells Aizawa it's never too late to be his sidekick. But Aizawa denies the offer, claiming if he leaves, who else is going to take care of his useless kids? It's honestly an adorable moment. And the other scene is of Aizawa's useless kids, where we see Midoriya, Todoroki, Bakugo, Ida, Uraka, Froppy, and Koda all together in the city being told to start evacuating civilians. But anyway, as the story gets back to the hospital, we are formally introduced to the number 6 hero, Crust, who in making his way to Mirko is forced to face off against numerous Nomus. Back in the lab itself, Mirko is about to open a can of whoop-ass on Garaki to prove he isn't just another clone. And then 2 things happen. The first is a flashback sequence where we see Dr. Garaki explaining to Shigaraki, who is in a suit for some reason, explain how without All for One, making Nomus and replicating quirks takes a seriously long time. And the batch of Nomus currently in the vats have had little to no time to acclimate. Also, fun fact, this sequence isn't a flashback in the manga. Garaki just thinks all of this to himself while running from Mirko. And the second thing that happens here is before Mirko can land a devastating blow on Garaki, a little Nomu named Mocha nudges her out of the way and tries to use Twice's copy quirk to duplicate the Doctor. Obviously, this little abomination is no match for Mirko, who actually kills it with a single kick, and Mirko's definitely gotta have the highest body count of all the heroes. But this distraction does give Garaki enough time to awaken all of his high-end Nomus, and he commands them to kill Mirko and all of the other heroes. Now, what separates these Nomus from your basic Nomus is the fact that 1, they can talk, 2, they maintain the ability to think independently and don't just have to follow commands, 3, they are buffed out to the 9s with quirks and body enhancements, and 4, they maintain their host's original personalities. So, obviously, Garaki only chose the most vile villains to give this treatment to. It's also fun to note that they all have names, and they are Woman, Ribby, Robot, Chubbs, and Elif. I'm not joking, that's their official names. After Woman pummels Mirko into the ceiling and Chubbs traps Crust and the other heroes in the hallway, Garaki makes his way to Shigaraki, where he questions whether he should wake Shiggy up now at 70% completion to help them escape. But before we see his decision, the story cuts back to Mirko, who in her vicious rabbit rampage goes head to head with all of the Nomus in an absolutely baller action sequence as she tries to make her way to the Doctor. During this sequence, Mirko performs all of her super moves, for which if you're looking for more information on, you can watch this video I made here. Shameless plug! And this conflict ultimately ends with Mirko killing the Nomu robot by obliterating his head against the floor, but she loses her arm in the process. You'll note that we already learned the High-End's weak spot is their heads in Endeavor's fight against Hood. And that's right, we just got to see Mirko in action and she's already permanently wounded. This scene then ends with Mirko tying up her arm and announcing, with a smile on her face, to the other Nomus that she lives every day as if it's her last, so she can die with no regrets. But unfortunately for them, she isn't planning on dying today. And with this, the story cuts away from Team Endeavor right on over to Team Edgeshot, where we see the majority of Class 1A acting as the last line of defense against any villains who may try to escape from the hero's attack on the Gunga Mountain Villa. Now, I say most of Class 1A because not only are there the few members with Team Endeavor evacuating the city, but also charging the villa in the front lines is none other than Kaminari and Tokoyami. While Tokoyami is as cool as ever, Kaminari is having a panic attack about not being ready to be front and center and cries out about how he misses his friends in the back lines. Despite this outburst, both Midnight and Tokoyami attempt to encourage Kaminari to little avail. And before anything else can be said, Cementos at the very front of the heroes uses his quirk on the Mountain Villa and rips it in half. Might have underestimated this guy's quirk. Skeptic, previously having overheard Twice accidentally inform Hawks of Shiggy's location, blames Twice for this happening, as he runs away to safety, exclaiming, "The heroes are coming, the heroes are coming." And with this, Team Edgeshot and the battle for the Gunga Mountain Villa officially begins. Amongst the villains now ready for the battle is an unnamed meta-liberation lieutenant with a lightning quirk called Amplivolt, which allows him to conduct and amplify electricity within his body and then release it. And it looks like he's going to prove a massive threat to the heroes. Also, note that, unlike Kaminari, this villain can't create lightning, only absorb and amplify it. But before all the heroes reach the villa, Midnight decides to give Kaminari one more pep talk, telling him not to think about the big picture and the severity of the situation, and instead to just think about protecting the one thing most dear to his heart. And in hearing these words, Kaminari stops in his tracks, looks backwards, and thinks about none other than Jiro. That's right, when asked what the closest thing in his heart is, Kaminari answers with Jiro, not Class 1A or any other students, just Jiro. You best drink up me hearty yo-ho because this ship is fucking sailing. And with this motivation in his head, Kaminari rushes forward and in a truly plus ultra moment, nullifies the Electric Commander's devastating widespread attacks by turning himself into a human lightning rod, immediately proving his worth, saving all the others and negating a powerful enemy entirely. Charge Bolt, you've done it again. And with this comes the end of episode 2. Now, as you could probably tell, this episode does deviate a bit more from the manga than the previous episode, but it's still such a tiny amount you probably wouldn't even notice. I mean, come on, let's be real here. No one's going to complain about the addition of Daddy Aizawa calling Class 1A his kids. The pacing of this episode also worked really well. Mirko got a beautifully animated fight scene that most certainly stood out, but it didn't take away from Kaminari's moment at the end of the episode either. Two of these moments deserved justice, and they absolutely served it. It's got me super hyped for what's to come next. And speaking of next, this brings us right into the final episode in this breakdown, My Hero Academia Season 6 Episode 3, titled One's Justice. This episode covers 3 chapters of the My Hero manga, following the events of chapters 264, 265, and 266. And it picks up continuing from where the last episode left off, with Team Edgeshot, as we see groups of heroes destroying all of the exits of the escape tunnels from Gunga Villa, making it so the only way out of the villa now is through the front door, or I should say giant hole as it is now. Underneath the villa, Ridestro is preparing for his big meeting, but is interrupted by one of his followers who informs him of the dire situation happening above ground and how they no longer have a way to escape. And this understandably causes Ridestro to become extremely stressed, which as we know is his super juice. Back above ground, we see the continuation of the heroes' fight against the villains, as we are treated to a battle sequence involving multiple beloved heroes showing off their quirks, such as Edgeshot, Midnight, Kamui Woods, and even Jozu Hononuki and Kinoko Mori of Class 1B. As the heroes are battling outside the villa, the episode cuts to inside the villa, where we see that Hawks has trapped a confused and scared Twice in a circle of his feathers. Hawks then goes on to reveal to Twice the truth about being a triple agent, and how he used Twice to get info and prepare the heroes for this attack on the villains. Now, throughout this monologue, not only does Hawks seem more villain than hero, but Twice's little terrified pleas to Hawks are honestly quite heartbreaking. Kudos to the voice actor, because I genuinely felt so bad for Twice in this scene. It's also nice to note that Hawks never says Twice. He only refers to him by his first or last name, Jean or Buba Gaiwara. As the reality of Twice's situation sets in, he realizes that once again he was the person to let the League and his friends down. The first time being when he brought Overhaul to them, which led to the death of Magna and the loss of Compressor's arm. Twice also informs Hawks that he felt sorry for him, and thought he could be the friend Hawks needed, similar to how the League were the friends he needed. It shows Twice's genuine good nature. And in hearing this, Hawks thanks Twice for his friendship, and he puts down this betrayal as simply Twice's bad luck. But he tells Jean that after all of this, all he needs to do is atone for his crimes and start over. As Twice's words echo in his head, the best people are those that help their friends. And Hawks, taking these words to heart, informs Twice that he will even help him start over. Hawks' subtle way of letting Twice know that he sees him as a friend, ultimately telling Twice that despite everything, he is a good person. Unfortunately, Twice doesn't take too kindly to the idea of starting over, as despite Hawks warning him numerous times not got the fight back, he stands up and declares that he wouldn't be here without his friends. And he activates his Sad Man Parade super move while announcing that he will do anything to make his friends happy. But before we can see just how this tragedy in the making goes down, the episode cuts back to outside the villa, where we see Tokoyami, Tamaki, and Fat Gum making their way to block one of the main exits from the underground of the villa. During this assault, Tamaki dispatches a good portion of villains using his super move Chimera Centaur, in which the bottom half of his body turns into a bull. Sometimes I worry about this man's diet, and upon entering the darkness of the underground tunnel, Tokoyami unleashes Dark Shadow at full power, which he calls Ragnarok, which is Dark Shadow's berserker form previously seen during the training camp arc, except now Fumikage can still control Dark Shadow. He's got all the power without the repercussions. Dark Shadow then goes on a rampage, destroying the tunnel and everything in it, until it encounters Redestro, who manages to temporarily hold Dark Shadow back, which does take Tokoyami by surprise. However, while Redestro is strong enough to withstand the power of Dark Shadow, his new robotic legs aren't, and they snap under the intense pressure, giving Dark Shadow the upper hand, who knocks back Redestro, fully sealing the exit. If it wasn't for Shiggy taking this man's legs, this confrontation would have gone a lot different. Upon returning to Tokoyami, Dark Shadow informs his, I want to say master, that he saw a genuine monster underground with everyone else, referring to Gigantomachia. But Fat Gum lets Bird Boy know that they shouldn't worry, as Gigantomachia won't make a move unless told to by Shigaraki, and he's out of commission. Fat Gum also informs Tokoyami that Hawks is the one who got them all of their intel, which sparks Fumikage's interest, who, after hopping into Fat Gum's stomach, yes, this is adorable and amazing, wishes his master could see him now, referring to how much stronger he has become, and not to his current situation of chilling in a dude's lair of fat, I think. But regardless, this episode cuts back to Hawks and Twice, where we see Hawks' feathers make quick work of all of Twice's duplicates, moving so fast he's destroying the copies faster than Twice can create them. So badass. Hawks then tries to reconcile with Twice once more, stating that while he won't let his emotions interfere, he has to admit that he really does like Twice. This once again angers Twice, who tries to make duplicates of his self-declared real friends, but again the copies stand no match for Hawks' feathers. Twice then charges Hawks, but is outpaced by the hero, who slices the villain's chest and pins him to the ground with his feathers pointed at him, while gloomily admitting that if neither side is willing to give up, someone has to die. Twice, while pinned down, makes a heartfelt speech about how, when things get tough, heroes always abandon the lowlives first, but the villains don't, as even when he messed up and got his comrade killed, the League still accepted him, flaws and all. And as Hawks raises his sword for the kill, Twice exclaims that all he wants is to make the people he cares for happy. In a shocking twist, however, before Hawks can administer the killing blow, Dobby blasts into the room, burning most of his feathers, catching the hero by surprise and pinning him down. Dobby then reassures Twice he made no mistakes, as this attack is solely the hero's fault, as he tries to finish Hawks off. But Bird Boy Sr. manages to avoid the attack while also carrying Twice away. Hawks and Dobby then get into a conversation about trust, in which we see everything Hawks has done to earn the League's trust, such as killing Best Jeanist, but Dobby admits that he never actually trusted Hawks, and just used him to do their dirty work. With Hawks distracted again, Twice activates his copy quirk to grab Hawks and runs out of Dobby's line of fire, allowing Dobby to, and I'm quoting Twice on this, roast the bird. And he does, allowing Twice to pick up the handkerchief that Toga gave him during the Shihei Saikai arc when his mask was ripped, epically high-five Dobby, and make his way towards the exit to unleash his quirk. But Hawks, proving too fast, manages to avoid this attack and flank the exit, and once again zooms in to try and kill Twice. Before he can, however, Dobby pulls out a surprise move and shouts out Hawks' real name, Keigo Takami, which is the first time his full name has ever been mentioned in the anime. That's important. Hearing his real name, Hawks hesitates, allowing Dobby to fire another blast of fire, giving Twice just the time he needs to escape the room and get out in the open. Twice, now free, thinks about how it's finally time for him to protect his friends. But fate has other plans, as time slows down, and for a split second we see Hawks flying through the flames at Twice with his feathers soared sword in hand. The episode then cuts away again, where we see one of Twice's doubles saving both Toga and Mr. Compress from the hero Eel Boy. Don't send an Eel Boy to do an Eel Man's job. And it's shortly after this when we see the decaying copy of Twice confess to his friends Toga and Compress, mainly Toga, that it's his fault everything went bad again, that we realize Hawks finally went through with his mission and killed Twice. And with this comes the end of episode 3, as Twice and Toga embrace and share one final goodbye, as internally Twice wishes for Hawks' death, because he had the audacity to claim Twice was unlucky when he lived a life where he got to meet his friends. And that's it, folks, for episode 1, 2, and 3 of season 6. Overall, I actually really enjoyed these episodes, and I'm super hyped to watch the next 3 to let you know what I think. From what I've seen, the hype train is still going, so this season is already looking like it's gonna be one of the best. I also want to give a special mention to how well Hawks and Twice's scene was executed in episode 3. I knew how it was going to end already, but god damn, it somehow managed to get me emotional. The score, the VAs, the animation, oh, it's amazing. I mean, look how cool yet tragic this part is. It's badass, but at the same time, it's so sad. It's totally sad ass. But let me know what you thought of these episodes. If you liked this video, don't forget to leave a like. For more My Hero content, subscribe to the Lunchtime crew. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Plus Ultra.